Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to day 10. Is it day 10? I think it is day 10 of the legislative session. It's week 2. This is our availability after our floor time for the press and for the public. And for those who are watching on the internet, please text in or whatever other means you use to get us your questions, and we'll address those. We have Senator Stevenson here today, who can address any budget questions. Senator Stevenson, anything you'd like to say just about the budget and how that process is going?
I think you've all heard this before. It will be a very tight year as far as the budget's concerned. There's not a lot of money out there, and we've got lots and lots of needs and requests. And we know, are far exceeding the amount of money that we have. That's about as general as it gets,
yes,
but that's the reality right now.
We do have money, but it's all in the education fund, so that's going to go to education. Senator Milner on the floor today addressed community schools and school board elections, and she's here today to address any of those questions, so maybe we should just open it up to the media now for questions that you have. And we have Senator Escamilla here today to represent our minority party.
My question is, and I don't know if it's for anyone in specific, but with passing Senator Milner's bill today with school board elections, what does this say about the prospects of some of the other bills that were out there last year about whether going to a nonpartisan or partisan election? I mean, your bill obviously doesn't do that. People have kind of been framing it as a stopgap. So does that decision get made this year, or is this good enough?
I'm hopeful that we will have some legislators that will run bills that address partisan, nonpartisan elections. I know there's been a bill out there that's been written that is focused on maybe a hybrid approach that would be a compromise strategy. I hope to see those bills run this session as we kind of work towards the future. But what we saw last year is that we were not able to get through a partisan, a nonpartisan, or an appointment process to go to the state school board election. So what I was trying to do with this bill is to get us through 2016 and make sure we do have some process for selecting candidates who would run on the ballot. At the same time, address the issues that Judge Waddups raised in his opinion. He kind of said, here are pieces here that you cannot consider in this process of narrowing the candidate field. And so I tried to address that, make it more objective based on education and experience background, and allow us then to be able to use the basic process we've been using for years to address the issue, to have selection now. This does repeal in January 1 of 2017, so it kind of makes it a stopgap in the truest sense of the word.
And just, I mean, there was a party line vote, and our caucus, by the way, not discuss or take a position on the bill, but we all felt that's not the approach. I mean, there's still days in the legislature to hopefully have meaningful reform to this issue, which is needed. And our concern is, even though it's addressing a decision, an opinion by Judge Waddups, is not addressing the complexity of the issue. We're afraid that the legislature will just slack and be like, okay, well, we have one more year to rest on our, on our whatever, not being able to make a decision. And this is critical for us to make sure we have a policy being addressed adequately, and we didn't believe this process was doing that.
Any other questions on school board elections? Questions on other issues from our media representatives?
You guys, you've been doing an hour of floor time a day, which is a little bit of a departure from years past. Is that sort of an intentional effort to kind of keep things?
I thought we did an hour last year. The pressure has been the appropriation committees to try and get more time for the base budget, and that has squoze our floor time down to an hour.
Okay.
Which is, it's going to be difficult because we're not passing as many bills out early in the session. I just hope.
That'll end after this week,
I
though,
just,
right?
I'm glad to stay here at midnight on the last night, but I don't want to stay till midnight on the other nights. Last year was exhausting, that last week. So I'm hoping we'll discipline ourselves to adjourn at a reasonable time on Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
And we're getting about 40-some bills on the board now that we can consider there for the first week or so. We didn't have a lot of bills there that were ready for prime time for our discussion. Today was House Day, and I think there are only about 10 House bills on the board. So this first week we're just kind of getting rolling, and we'll start getting through a lot more as we get them up and get ready. Get them up on the board.
Did he just leave to go to the House?
I think he was done.
Oh.
I thought it was Bob Gerke talking about, I saw a tie over there. It can't be him. Just kidding. I think last year, we spent almost the first week, or this process of doing all appropriations, even in the afternoon. I think the problem we got backed up on the bills we handled. So this approach has been morning appropriations and afternoon committees, so that we've been able to process the bills. And as Senator Okerdon said, that has really put a lot of bills on our board. Now we've taken longer. We're going to do executive appropriations tomorrow night and Friday at noon. And there we hope to get the base budgets done that we normally have gotten done quicker than that. But we need extra time to give that afternoon committee meeting. So we got a lot of work now up on the board that we didn't have last time because we didn't have any standing committees. We just were doing the appropriations.
Any other questions?
There's a bill in the House that would let the legislature put a non-binding question on the ballot regarding Medicaid expansion. Yes or no? What do you think about that concept and that idea of putting that to the voters?
I think we already know. There's been enough polling out there. So that's a nice idea, but I don't think it gets us any more information than we already have.
You don't ask the second question. How are you going to pay for it? What are you going to do when it explodes like it has another? I'm sure they'll all say tax the doctors or tax somebody else. Don't tax me. I don't want that benefit. So that's my concern. If you're really going to put it on and ask people an opinion, you need to carry the whole gamut of what that decision means. And if they say, sure, raise our property taxes, raise our sales tax or whatever it is to pay for it, then I think that's a fair question. But just say, do you want it expanded? Do you want free college? Should we make no tuition? I'm sure people would vote yes.
But we found out that taxing the doctors doesn't work. If that's the way it's going to be, we'll be expanding Medicaid. Any other questions? Do we have any questions from our internet viewers? So, Robert?
Since
go
we
ahead.
were on the topic, why don't, has there been any more discussion about, are you just letting the House kind of work through their issues on Medicaid expansion?
We're going to let the House work through and see what they send over to us.
Okay.
Yes. Questions from our viewers. Thank you.
We have two. The first one comes from Twitter, and it's from Jason Williams. He wants to ask Senator
Thank
Hilliard.
you, Jason, by the way.
Tell him to come down and see us sometime.
If it wasn't for Jason, we wouldn't get many questions on
I
the
know,
internet, so thank
right?
you.
We do have one that came in from Facebook too, but that's next. So this one is for Senator Hilliard. He wants to know, do you have any comment on the announced resignation of USU's President Stan Albrecht?
I do. He's had such a profound impact on our university. I think if people look back to the 10 years, 11 years he's served as president, some of the changes he's been able to bring in such a good way. I think that'll be a profound legacy he'll leave for Cache Valley. I could name a number of instances, but I think that generally catches everything that he's done.
I didn't know that, but he'll be missed.
He visited with me the other day, and I knew this was coming, but he indicates he'll take a year before he finally leaves to give a research, the replacement pick and all of that.
He's been outstanding and a great person to work with. Yeah, thanks for that question, Jason.
Wonderful. And an announcement, I guess. Okay, well, the next question is from Facebook. The person asks, what are you going to do about Western groups, including the USA, funding and backing ISIS through Turkey and Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's actually something that state legislature doesn't have jurisdiction over. That's a national issue. And so I think ISIS is a big issue for our country. And I hope that our Congress and President will address that proactively, because this can balloon into a big problem for not only us, but for our allies across the world. So it's a great question. It'd be a great question to ask our federal representatives, Senator Hatch, Senator Lee, and our representatives. So thank you for that. And I guess if there's no other questions, we'll end our media availability today. Anybody? Okay. So thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.